If you own a coffee shop or a cafe, you probably don't frequently think about AI or vibe coding as a way to help your business. But what if in minutes you could create an app that helped your customers to be more loyal and actually gave them a better experience with your restaurant?
I like the dark. I like Columbia. If I have to put sugar and stuff in it, I'm usually not getting into it. It's just calories I don't need.
What if you could provide them just the right offer and deal that would make them want to come in? And it's not just something that you're offering a discount on, it's something that they would want most. Like this one still feels a little bit like this could run on a web page. And like you said,
it really does. I agree.
Yeah. So I think
what happens when we prefer that design.
All right, let's go with this one then. That's what we're going to try to tackle today. And I'm really excited to have on the channel Sean Ebling, who is the DoITGuru IT in the middle there, expert in vibe coding. And we're going to walk through how could you create an app that would really increase customer loyalty. So first of all, Sean, thanks so much for joining us. Really great to have you today.
Absolutely, John. And thanks for having me on your show. Definitely looking forward to the project. I'm honestly a little skeptical that we're going to have a final product, but I do think we get to an MVP or minimum viable product. To your point, in minutes.
Yeah, I love it.
Sometimes that's good enough, right?
Yeah, I love it. All right, so Sean's a skeptic, so we're gonna see if we can do it. And I think so. Our challenge is we're gonna try to build a restaurant app in the next 20 to 30 minutes as we're talking through it. And I think your skepticism would be one that I think a lot of people would think about right now is vibe coding really a viable way to build an app? And will the app actually do what we need it to do? Because we've all been victims of those terrible apps that don't actually do what they're supposed to do. And I think even a lot of individuals still think like vibe coding is that even really a thing, or do I really need to have a coder? My experience is you do ultimately still need people that really understand coding and really understand how to code, but these tools help to get more clarity of what it is we're building, why we're building it, who we're building it for, and getting to something where we can see it. It's like, yeah, that's right, or we need to change it, those kinds of things. So this could be a really cool process.
Yeah, we often call like a difference between low code and no code. So a lot of these things kind of purport to be no code, but if you need at least some fundamentals to be able to tweak these things. And that's not to dissuade anybody. I think most people, especially young folks, getting started that have the time to put into it, can really get something cool going in a short period of time.
Yeah. So let's talk about the business problem for a second. And this is, I work a lot with people that have coffee shops, cafes, restaurants. And one of the things that and maybe just going to my own experience, when I get some kind of message from a restaurant, whether it's on social media, I see something on Instagram, or they send me a text message, and they'll say, hey, we've got a 20% off on the chicken dinner tonight, or get a free appetizer if you come in. The problem with those can be, it's like, well, I like that restaurant a lot, but the thing they just offered me doesn't really interest me. And this is where I think AI has the ability to help personalize messaging. Imagine if I got a message that said, hey, come out for happy hour tonight. If you buy one appetizer, you can get this other thing for free. And it's like my favorite thing that they have. And it knows me, it knows when maybe I'm likely to come in, it knows what I like. And now all of a sudden the offer I get is very customized, tailored to me. And I haven't really seen anything like that before. So I think that would be really interesting, because the idea is that each person can feel that personal connection, and the restaurant can optimize how many people are coming in. So I'd be curious, Sean, when you think about that business problem, what are some of the things maybe some of the questions you would ask, and some of the things you'd think about if you were going to vibe code an app like this?
Yeah, so top of the list is what's going to be the interface. This is going to be on an iPhone or a website. I think at this point, mobile is really something you got to design for first.
Yeah.
My wife and I were just in DC over the weekend, and some of the websites were still legacy when we went to the restaurants, and it was frustrating. So anyway, I would say, try to design it for mobile first. Then it's about storing the data, right? So what is John's favorite thing? Does John like hamburgers, and what does he like on his hamburgers? That's something I used to kind of have as an icebreaker for folks. So what's your favorite condiment? I would name things, based on that when I was demoing products. But anyway, so we need to know, like, what's the front end, where's the database, maybe what language we're using, and how we're going to pull it together. So those were the things that I would like to look at. Can we do it cloud only, right? Versus, trying to stand up any kind of infrastructure. At this point, I'm assuming small to medium business, probably even just small business if we're talking about a restaurant. So they're not going to want to run servers in the back room, and it's probably not the best environment for that. So those are probably the primary things to be concerned about.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe to unpack that a little bit, I mean, I heard number one, like some kind of questions you might ask the customer to figure out what it is that they like. So some kind of a quiz or a survey or just a questionnaire at the front. I just recently interviewed Maiko Sakai, who has really a business where she's like builds these sales funnels based on some kind of intake survey like that. And it seems like maybe that would be the first thing, is something that gets from the customer, like, what is it that you like? What is it you desire? And then, as you said, like something, you said database, like something on the back end that keeps that information in a way that's accessible. But then ultimately delivering it in a way that is mobile friendly, because this would be the way people do that. And, if you try to build an app and put it on the app store, like everyone's tired of like having to download apps. So can this just be, really lightweight? It just pulls open a browser and gives you something. Could it be as simple as, a text message that goes to the person through SMS, regardless of what platform they're on, but then it opens a screen with like kind of a picture of your favorite meal or your favorite thing, and then, something tailored to you on the screen. So I think those all seem like good criteria. Can you think of anything else? Did we miss anything?
I think we're pretty solid there. If somebody's like listening and they're concerned about databases and how complicated that is, just a place to store stuff. We just did one the other day that was for a painting business, and used a spreadsheet to store it on Google Docs. So there's options that aren't expensive or complicated. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I think, in my experience, that I was in the technology industry for over 20 years. And one of the things I would do as someone who engaged a lot with the customer, did that customer development, I would try to build something. And sometimes it would be like a whiteboard sketch or a napkin sketch, or, as time went on, I'd kind of like mock something up in PowerPoint and later with Canva. But what vibe coding tools or I'm finding do is they, as someone who's understands the user story, what we're trying to do, but doesn't really understand the technology, lightweight vibe coding can be a really helpful way to say, here's a design spec, and then take that to a coder and say, like, what would it take to build this? So maybe let's try simulating that. Could kind of show, here's how I would do this using Loveable, which is a kind of an emerging vibe coding platform that I think is really accessible to anyone, regardless of technical background. So I'll maybe show how I might create that first really, really like rough. I don't even know, I'd call it minimum viable product. It's maybe like a prototype.
Well, let's see where we get. Like, let's jump in.
All right, let's do it. So I'm going to share my screen here. So I like to start with an LLM. I find it's just a really good way to get clear on what it is that I want to build. And then from there, I can, go into a vibe coder like Loveable. So I use ChatGPT for this example. I did this ahead of time just so it would have time to run. But just to show what I did here is I created a prompt for ChatGPT, and it just said, I'd like to demonstrate vibe coding by creating an app for coffee shops and cafes using Loveable. And so to keep this moving, I want to first create a thoughtfully engineered prompt for Loveable that I can drop in during the video. So here we are. And so I then put in, like, I kind of had some detail about what I wanted to do. Survey at the beginning, collect some details about favorites, and then an app that kind of creates a customized special for each person. And then, I'm basically sending it to do some extensive research on the platform. So on Loveable, like what's the best practices for prompt engineering? I also said, like, look at the restaurant industry technology and what features are available or maybe not available that would be useful. And then, create the prompt for a simple, elegant, loyalty app that uses AI to create a personalized incentive to bring people into the restaurant the same day or the following day. This prompt should be ready to write in Loveable. So what it did was it went into deep research mode. I sent an agent to do this, and it now created this Loveable prompt. So loyalty app for restaurants. I'm going to go ahead and copy this prompt so you can see it's pretty extensive.
Can we take a second to just talk about the prompt? So,
yeah, go right ahead. Yeah.
Right. So if you can scroll back up just so people can see, you didn't have a one sentence request, right? This is probably, I don't know, I'm going to guess 100 words or so, right? So what I find with AI in particular is the more you give it and the more rules you give it, the better the outcome. And the less number of prompts. It's almost fun to see, okay, if I give it a lot of information, sometimes you can see things take 2 minutes to generate. And those things that wind up taking 2 minutes to generate are much better than the ones that are 15 seconds. So yeah, be patient and let it cook. So
yeah. And I should mention, like down here at the bottom, you can see at the bottom, I activated what's called agent mode. So if you've never done that before, you click on the little X. Actually, I have to get rid of the agent first. Let's see. There we go. Take off the agent. It'll let me do it here. But I went into this X here to add. And it's actually not letting me do it now, but I basically added agent mode. Oh, there it is. So if we go into more, I've got a little bit of a lag here. So we click on the X, we go to more, and then I go to agent mode right here. And it didn't catch for me. But and what agent mode does is it allows the LLM to do multiple things on your behalf. So what the agent did was it went first into deep research mode. And because I prompted it to do that, and then it did research on Loveable. It also did research on restaurant industry technology, and then it used that to inform what it created. And so it literally, when it was running, you saw like its own window where it was going to different websites. It was pulling information, and then what it actually created was another even longer prompt with the LLM. So that's kind of where we went from a longish prompt to a really long prompt. That's now kind of set up for Loveable. All right, so I'm going to switch over. So this is Loveable. If you've never used it, it is an app builder for anyone. I mean, coders use it, but you don't have to be a coder. In fact, it feels a lot like an LLM when you use it. And so I'm going to just initiate a project, and it's basically saying, what should we build today? So it's I'm going to copy in my prompt. So this is the prompt that I just took out of ChatGPT. And the one thing is, so build a modern loyalty app. I'm going to actually add here mobile. Sean, you mentioned like mobile is going to be an important part of this. So I want to make sure. So now I have this whole prompt key features, and it's like listed out all the different features that I want to include. Technical instructions. So it's giving some details here. Deliverable, like what it ultimately should be. So loyalty, we'll say working, mobile. We'll add that here too, so it doesn't miss this. And I'll tell you why I do this with Loveable is like you can put in a small prompt and it'll be really generic, and then you have to do tons of follow-ups. And if you see over here, it's credit-based. So I have 100 credits. I added credits for this video today. And you'll use them really quick. So you use some to create the original app, but every change you make, then you have to use more credits. So the more robust this first prompt can be, the less work you have to do and the less credits you have later. So I'm going to go ahead.
Well, before you press enter,
too late. Go ahead, keep talking. Go ahead. It'll take a minute.
So one of the things you put in there was a mobile app, and in our discussions earlier, you were thinking sounded like more of a mobile website. I'm curious what we're going to get. Are we going to get an app that needs to be uploaded to the Apple the Apple Store, or the App Store, or something that's going to be accessible just via a URL?
Yeah, really good call. So that was a miss in the prompt. So a couple things one thing is too, if we were going to build this beginning to end with Loveable, that would be something we'd probably have to correct. On the other hand, if we're using Loveable as a kind of a design spec just to see what would it look like, what would it do, that's something we could correct in the more comprehensive development process by making it more of like a web app, something that would run on a web browser as opposed to an app we would put into the app store. So yeah, one of the things we're seeing now, it's actually going to ask which kind of design. It's going to run two scenarios and it's going to ask which one I like. So that's kind of an interesting thing, is it's going to give me some choices. So, one of the things here, Sean, would be if I handed you an app and said, this is what I'm thinking I want, what would be some of the things you would do next, or what would be some of the ways you might follow up that discussion, or some of the steps you might take to actually develop an app in kind of the next phase of this?
Yeah, so you're shortcutting a lot of it by we might go to a whiteboard, and I love my whiteboard. The fact is, this is going to spit out something that's quasi usable, right? And then it's going to generate more questions and more understanding. Maybe we like the colors, maybe we don't like the colors. Maybe we want to add something that automatically emails everybody on the 15th of every month, or Tuesday at 3 p.m. whatever time we think we want to get people interested in coffee that they might not normally stop by. So I guess what I'm saying is from what would have taken hours, days, weeks to get that MVP, that minimum viable product, we should have something here in a few minutes that at least a mock-up or better.
Yeah. One of the ways we talked earlier about, an MVP, like early on when I was doing these, say years and years ago, it might be a sketch on a whiteboard. I might do like a sketch on a napkin.
That's so many stories about the napkins, right?
Right. Yeah. The napkin sketch, the PowerPoint, I would mock something up on PowerPoint. I remember it was a big breakthrough when Figma came out, because Figma allowed you to create what looked like an app, or whatever it was, a website, and you could handle all the artwork and even make it clickable. So what are some of the tools you remember using over the years just to get that user development, that user story into some kind of an idea of this is what the app would be?
I would use Visio. I would use PowerPoint. I would use kind of some of the more traditional enterprise tools for that. What else is a good one? And I'm drawing a blank on that, but I would say every discussion I've ever had to create an app or a solution has started with a sketch on a whiteboard. Like I have whiteboards all over this room. You can't see them. They're all over the place. But yeah, going from whiteboard to code is a huge time sink, right? But it does get those questions out of the way as you develop the interface.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I remember that's a lot of times where things can break down in communication, because you have a customer that's kind of giving you some input about the problem and about what the solution might look like. And as someone who's in product management, or somebody who's customer facing and kind of doing the discovery for that, might talk to 10 or 20 or 50 customers or hundreds and get that input and kind of aggregate it into this is what maybe this should be. And then they kind of encode that somehow, the napkin sketch, the whiteboard sketch. And then they, maybe walk through that sketch with a developer or someone who's, closer to design specs. And then that person would then kind of translate it into their version of, whether it's Visio or Figma or some kind of a flow diagram, flow chart. And then that would get converted into a document. Usually it was like a specifications document, and that's handed to a developer to write the code. And so you really have this very complex whisper down the lane scenario happening in that case where all these different places where something can get missed or mischaracterized or misconstrued. And that can really lead to some unexpected results. Can you think of something like, have you run into that in your experience or had times where things went
sideways? And I'm just pulling up an image right now that I want you to check out. I don't know if we can get in on that. I mean, how many times have we seen this image here? They're being asked to build a swing, right? And the swing looks completely different depending on your.
Yeah, I love this image. I'm just pulling it up now. It's funny. This is exactly what I had in mind when I was thinking about this. Is like because it's like what the customer had requested. It was like what I can't quite read it. It's a little bit small.
Yeah. So I mean, it's saying how the customer explained it, with how the project leader thought of it, the analyst designed it. It goes all the way down through what the beta tester got, and all the way at the end, you get what the customer really needed. They just wanted a tire swing. So it was a swing, yeah, but it wasn't all these other things. It wasn't a recliner hung on a tree or what that is.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I love like the documentation's just an empty field.
Yeah.
It's that's the whole thing there. But yeah, well, let's go back to Loveable and see if anything's happening yet. Okay, we have our 2 versions of the app. So what it's actually done here is it's kind of created 2 versions and we can pick which one, and it'll only charge for the one we want. So let's look at the first one here. So it's like loyalty points are at the top. Free coffee progress. Love that, right? It's kind of like, we've all had the punch cards. And then your offers. So your favorite latte on us. So like this app, if it's working right, would never give me this one. It's like free oat milk latte. Why? I like black coffee. I don't like cream in it. I don't like sugar in it. I don't really love lattes or cappuccinos, or I just like but for somebody that loves oat milk lattes, this is like, and that's really popular right now. A family member who's a barista says this is one of the most ordered things right now. So knowing that that's your jam, it's like, okay, here, like you've got this week, come on in and get a free latte on us. Because it's like, okay, well, your points, you have some points, you're not quite to your free one, but hey, here's a special thing. Draws you in on that day, Sweet Treat Tuesday, so 50% off a dessert, Morning Boost bundle. Like, to me, like I look at these 3 and say, well, I don't really like eating sweets, and I don't like, don't like lattes, but Morning Boost bundle, it's even like an upsell right in. So this is coffee and a pastry. So like, let's say if it was maybe coffee and something savory is what mine would have.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is it's tailored. Like, what would be Sean? What would draw you into the coffee shop? What would be your? I
like the dark. I like Colombia. If I have to put sugar and stuff in it, I'm usually not getting into it. It's just calories I don't need.
Sure, right? But, yeah, and so that's
when I am feeling like that dessert coffee, I'll go with like a white chocolate mocha or something like that. So it's either really dark blend or like over the top calories.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's like, that would be the thing it would probably over time, especially if it was really tracking the things you got, it would know what those were. Yeah. Oh, and look at this. Recent visits even has the star rating that they had. So that's pretty slick. Down here, we've got, let's see. Oh, look at this. Like we can even, the whole app is clickable. So here's like all your recent visits. I wonder if you can, let's see. Now you can see what you spent, but then here's rewards. Look at that, reward milestones. So here's some badges, first sip, early bird. Look at this. I love this.
This is much more than I expected. What I'm curious about is the maintenance of it and, again, the hosting of it. So like we could put something together like this and get it working. And if we're like on a shoestring budget, this is fantastic. But if your day job is selling coffee and getting customers and opening up new locations, if this were to go down, having somebody that does this for you is going to be important, right? If you're messing with your code because something's not quite right, you're not doing your primary job as a business owner.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's where I think Loveable is trying to promote, like, you could really get this to an app you put out into the world, and they do. You can publish them. The question would be, like you say, like, will it keep working? And what happens if it does go down or there's a bug? How do you fix it? And this is where, a more robust solution would make more sense. On the other hand, if you have a coffee shop with, you're having like, maybe, 100 people, 70 to 100 people a day coming in, maybe a total following of, maybe 1,000 people or something like that. It might be that it's enough, but, you may run into problems along the way.
Right. And you have to ask yourself, can I live if this goes down? And, if you've got 75 to 100 visitors a day, you probably could live if that app went down. You're still making coffee, you're still making money.
Right.
Right. It's just going to pop up something that says, "Hey, we're temporarily under construction," or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and this is the reason I think vibe coding could be good for these types of things, where it's like it's got some potential to boost sales. As long as nothing's really aggravating, it's probably not going to harm customers. Like if they didn't like it, they just wouldn't use it. And so, the core business will probably continue to operate as is, but the app could really help enhance the experience. And I just love the fact that this could enhance the customer's experience as they're coming in. So let's just take a quick look at the second version here. So first one kind of led with loyalty points. The second one leads with an image. Imagine if that image could be, of the thing that person likes most.
Yeah. And I do like that it's an image. It feels, I don't know, like that feels more fun and more inviting than a number. Right.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it looks like it still gets that number. You have the loyalty point thing here lower, but I agree with you. I think the image more fun and engaging up front. Good morning, Alex. So you've got like it's greeting you. I guess the other one did that too. So a log a visit. So this is a little more options for offers. So you can click into those. So yeah, you can claim your offers here. So that's pretty good. It just kind of kicked us from home over to offers when we clicked on that. So it's pretty efficient. Let's see, last visit. So can you view all your visits? Okay, so it takes you to log. It's pretty good. Some badges. So the loyal. So some of these are clickable and some aren't. Let's see, Explorer. Actually, they're not. They just sort of come up. And then, so that's all we have. So this is a much simpler home screen. You have a lot of scrolling you can do here. I guess they're about the same, but I think visually this one appeals a lot more.
I agree. I don't love the slide left, slide right in my mobile apps, and maybe some people do. To me, it's a vertical screen, so let's stay vertical. Yeah, for sure. I'm usually using it with one hand, and no, not really when I'm driving. I promise.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I think this one definitely, I think it has more of that warmer vibe that I think would be really important for a coffee shop or cafe. It definitely has more mobile feel. Like this one still feels a little bit like this could run on a web page. And like you said,
it really does. I agree.
Yeah. So I think
what happens when let's try we prefer that design.
All right, let's go with this one then. All right. And then, so this is great. So it's asking for more feedback. So what do I prefer about this edition? Yeah, I mean, I kind of think all these things are pretty good. I wonder if I could just say, can I just say all those? Nope, it didn't let me keep them. But I like that. It's it's just warmer, inviting, mobile
layout.
Yeah. Friendly layout. Let's see, what else would we say here? It's kind of it's very simple to navigate.
Yep.
So I think that's good. That gives us some. I think they're really there, looking for feedback, just for probably to build the model. But I think it's also, to me, it's giving a way for the app to understand me better as I do
it's
that.
like we're trying to understand our customer better. They're trying to understand us better.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, here we have a preview. We can embed it. So there's an embed feature here. You can look at the code. So if we wanted to like go into the code itself, there's like your cloud. You can enable cloud, and then you can also just publish the app. There's also a small thing here for the nerds in the audience. We got like GitHub. We'll link right in. So if you wanted to put it out on GitHub, you could do that. So yeah, I think what we have here would be a nice design spec to be able to hand over and say, what would you do with this, or what could we do next?
It's worlds beyond what I could put together in that, even a week.
Yeah. So, Sean, what would you do if I handed this to you? What would you do to build this out further?
So I'd probably, throw up a VM on one of my lab stations.
A virtual machine?
Yeah, virtual machines, and stand it up, access it from an iPhone, see what it looks like. Try it out on an Android, see what it looks like, because sometimes the formatting is a little different. Some things you have to watch out for when you're creating a mobile app. Different phones, even within the Apple sphere, depending on which version you have, the screen sizes are slightly different. So I don't know if this is taking that into account. Test, right? Like, you're probably not going to see spelling errors, but you might see something funky with vibe coding from time to time, or just something you don't like the way it works, right? And again, if we're going to have something like this and do it right, we might want to take the time to make sure it's properly backed up, right? Which, okay, again, if I'm a small coffee shop with 100 customers a day, maybe that's not a huge deal if it goes down, but I don't have to start from scratch again. So I want to have a copy of this somewhere.
Yeah.
And again, going back to, vibe coding, if you have the time and you don't have the budget, probably your first step should be vibe coding. If you have budget and you have a bigger business that, you're busy 10 hours a day, adding this into the mix might not be the thing to do. It might be better for you to, pay, either a developer or, I'm sure if we did a quick Google search, we're going to find somebody that creates these apps on the regular. Maybe Wix, or you had some other ones that you liked. I suspect there's something like that in those tools.
Yeah, for sure. So, Sean, one of the things you really help people to take a look at something like this and build something that it kind of fits a budget and also is really effective. What would be some ways folks could learn more about what you do or get in contact with you?
So, my name is Sean Ebling. I'm at DoITGuru. So I help people do IT. And you can go to my website, DoITGuru, GURU.com. And we'll, just get in touch with me there. There's a link where you can send me an email, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'll put all those details in the description below if you want to reach out to Sean. Actually, this was super fun. I think we need to do some more of these. So I look forward to having you back sometime soon.
Absolutely. Sounds awesome. Can't wait.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, before we sign off real quick, what is your favorite founder film?
What is my favorite founder film? I guess the coffee shop one is really good. So
the coffee shop one. Well, sorry, like films about people starting businesses. I know you're.
Founder. The Pursuit of Happiness. I don't know if that really counts.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But that's a fantastic one. I've read several biographies. I tend to listen to my content. Almost podcasts / audible books. And I recently did 2 different books on the founder of Home Depot and some of the trials he had. I'd have to look in Audible to find it. But if you look up founder of
is it Kicking Up Dust or something like that?
Yes, that's it. That's exactly.
Yeah.
So, but Pursuit of Happiness, like, just watching that guy, Will Smith did a great job in it. Watching that guy,
and his son was actually in it too. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And that one's to me, you see the entrepreneurship where you're starting a business, you see how easy, it can be to fail, but then the resilience to get back up and to build like another business and to keep going. Such a great story.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, Sean, thanks so much for joining us today. This was great. And we'll look forward to doing some more vibe coding again sometime soon.
Sounds good. Thanks. Take care.
All right. Keep going.